Elsa has like she has like a small like lispy like speech impediment.
Okay.
And it's like, I need to go home and find mommy. Like I was just outside with daddy, but now we go inside and get mommy because and it's like, oh no, it's steak night. Daddy never give me big piece of steak. He always give me gristle. But mommy always give me piece of her steak. She always do. That's why I love mommy. There it is.
Welcome to Unconditional. I am so excited about this episode because from the moment I started this podcast, I was like, I gotta get the Dogist. And now I got the Dogist. I don't want to give away too much just because this interview was so special. He has a book coming out like right now called This Dog Will Change Your Life. And it is such a beautiful story. And it goes so far beyond just what he does and his photos and stories, as you all, I'm sure, have seen or followed. If you haven't, I mean, he's wildly famous now, but like, go follow him because he posts the most beautiful photos of dogs and he tells the most beautiful stories. But to get to know him and actually read this book, he's very smart. I love his take and perspectives on so many things. And I actually think he might be Batman. So please listen on and you'll see why. I'm a little starstruck. Truly, I feel like you have I don't know even how, I mean, you talk about this in the book, but I want to start kind of at the beginning with you of like, you mentioned a lot. Okay, so you have a new book out. We'll start there. This Dog Will Change Your Life, which is I have right here. Everyone,
nice.
Get this book. Where you talk a lot about being like a dogist before becoming the Dogist.
Yes, my origin story.
Your origin story.
Yeah.
I want to start there. I mean, a lot of times on this pod, we start with like, did you grow up with pets and your history with pets and all of that? But because you're, I don't know, you can share that too if you want. But I would love to hear how you kind of discovered this about yourself and like how this all began for you.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a house with dogs, and as a shy kid, the dogs were such a source of comfort and joy.
Mm-hmm.
I think they helped me express my sense of humor. Like I love laughing and love making other people laugh. And I think from a very young age, I was always like into what I read about in the book, canine ventriloquism, and we all do it, right?
Yeah.
Like we have voices for our dogs.
Oh, I'm going to make you do yours.
Yeah.
Yes, but yeah.
That was just sort of like, I was like good at throwing my voice around, and I would just make my siblings laugh because of what like Ruby was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the other things, like your dog will cuddle with you in the bed and throw you a party when you come home, and be outside with the dogs and watch them chase a squirrel and go for it. Just sort of, there's all these things we kind of take for granted, but they have such a profound effect on our mood and our life and our personalities every single day. And
keeping us present. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're always in the present. They can snap us out of any like mood and help wash away stress. And so that was always obvious to me, and has always been like part of my soul, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
So, my whole life has in a way revolved around dogs. So it's a little bit strange, the job that I do and the career I've I've carved out in the last decade.
It's
But
not
it's not that strange.
look at you. Like, I mean, look at your, even just the way you're talking about like your awareness of dogs, even as a kid and what they were doing, what they were providing or that, and that joy that they were bringing in the presence. Like it doesn't, not everybody has that perspective
Yeah.
or
I,
that. Yeah.
I feel like, we all, for one reason or another, have to like grow up. And, but as a kid, you get to just like be really goofy and dogs have this like childlike spirit and I didn't let that die. And so when I was 25 and I was let go from my job, I was like, okay, now's the time to use this thing that I've been holding on to. And like, what, just like, what if like I just went and met dogs and documented it and shared it with everyone? And of course, like everyone's like, yes, like I also have been holding on. Like, I also want to like just do the thing that that I dream of, or like that seems childish, like going and meeting dogs. Like it seems silly, but really that's like other things are much more silly. Like worrying about, your self-image and like posting on Instagram and all these other things are actually silly.
Oh my God,
Uh,
that's such a good point. That is
you know,
actually silly. Yeah.
so
You're
what's like,
spreading love.
what was
You're
that?
bringing joy. You're spreading love. Like it feels silly to you to be doing something that you find such joy in and just like going up and meeting dogs. But what
Yeah,
makes people smile more than that?
I know. Isn't that more real than anything else?
Yeah,
Like
it is.
dogs are one of the few things tethering us to our humanity,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like we're like embarrassed to like indulge ourselves in laughter and joy. Um, but why is that weird? Why is that silly?
I
I
don't
think
know. I tell you, most people, I will say and I've interviewed a lot of celebrities on here and I are on this podcast. You being number one, honestly, like truly from the very beginning, I was like, how do we get this? I
yeah,
I feel bad because like at one point I was like, all right, I'll send a DM. And then I work with a book or two, and I think she reached out to your publicist and like I just can't thank you enough. Like I know you're super busy and I know you got a lot going on. So but just so you know, this thing you're talking about though, this joy, this playfulness, this play, this like,
hmm
so I've asked a lot of the people who come on to do dog voices, like what's your dog voice? And there is a moment where everybody hesitates. We don't do that with our dogs, but in the moment
yes,
it's always like a little bit of like, oh, because it feels so like weird and emotional and vulnerable to like share this like,
right. Seems random, or
so yeah, but it's literally, and the reason I do it, you just articulated way better than I could. It's this kind of like state of play, and in a weird way, we don't
feel comfortable, or
we don't feel comfortable. We lose that. Like
yeah,
I feel like in time we almost lose this kind of like childlike playfulness but we don't with our dogs. We still have that with our dogs. So when people do it, it becomes this like funny thing. I did have one guest where he said, "I can't. I've already been too emotional and vulnerable on this interview to do my dog voice, Maggie. Like I can't go that
yeah.
far."
Well,
Yeah,
I feel like it's when I'm around Elsa, it sort of like just comes naturally.
right.
And then I'm sort of like narrating her inner monologue. It's just like part of just like being next to a dog.
Yeah,
But I also, I want to do my dog voice all the time, but it's like I need like the muse there. It's like
sure. There's that too.
and I'm
There's that
happy to
too.
try also. Don't worry
Oh
about
my God. This is what I usually do. I'll be like, "Hey, by the way, we don't have to do this right now. We're not like at that part of the interview, but I would like what I usually do in like, what's your dog's name?" And they'll say that, and I'm like, "All right, so I'm Elsa, and you
yeah.
just got home, and I'm coming up to you.
Yeah.
How do you greet me?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good mental exercise. So yeah, it's like I have to like close my eyes. It's like I'm coming home like, oh, it's the end. Elsa has like she has like a small like lispy like speech impediment,
Okay.
and it's like, oh, I need to go home and find mommy. Like I was just outside with daddy, but now we go inside and get mommy because and it's
Where we
like,
going?
oh no, oh, it's steak night. Daddy never give me big piece of steak. He always give me gristle. But mommy always give me piece of her steak. She always do. That's why I love mommy. There it
Okay.
is.
All right. Can I tell you that takes the cake? That was
Yeah.
amazing. Also, Elsa saying gristle is one of my
Yeah,
favorite
gristle.
things in
Yeah.
in life now.
Yeah, there you
Uh,
go.
Thank you so much. Anyway, all right. So let's go. Okay. So you go. So let's go back. You were like, yeah, what if I just take pictures of dogs or go up and greet dogs? And your friends were like, yeah. And you were like, yeah, but this feels kind of silly to do something like, of course I want to do something that I love to do, but is this like, I don't know. You continue that part because also like you're a photographer.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
it, there's no established career track for a dog photographer. And so if you're not making money, then it's just like a hobby,
Yeah.
right? And people will look at you with anything that's artistic. People will look at you like you're crazy unless you're a commercial success. Then you're a genius.
Yeah.
So I I
So
I knew that would be a challenge. My parents are both physicians, so
mm,
but I do come from like a family that fostered like the zaniness.
mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
but I was aware that I was at the time was ticking, and if I was going to do something creative, it better be like at least it better have an opportunity, some potential. So I was like, okay, like Instagram is clearly this like new thing. It was 2013,
God.
and dogs are um, probably one of the best things out there
Mm-hmm,
in terms of lovability and availability, ubiquity. They're
mm-hmm.
literally walking around the streets. So what if we did a whole project on like dogs and it was on Instagram and then sort of see how that goes? And of course, it's like people like it. So there's a few things on the internet that do well, right? It's like naked people or mostly naked, um,
It's true.
and like food
Mm-hmm.
and uh, dogs and cats,
You're
and
right.
some other, you want to see like celebrity news and like cool houses and places you want to travel to, like.
Sure.
So but dogs I always knew would be like, okay, how could people not like dogs, like.
Yeah.
So I
You,
chose one that I thought would have potential.
you chose well.
Yeah.
But you also have an awareness of like I love your approach to because you are now, which we'll get to that part of the story, but like you are such an advocate for all dogs and people and the human animal bond, but
Hmm.
also like rescue, but you also are like no judgment on, you talk quite a bit, and I loved that part about breeders and sort of this idea around breeders and rescuers and just having the conversation around like at least your approach to it is you are the dogist, and there is like however these animals get their homes and
Yeah.
they need to be loved, and some people go this route and some people have to go this route. There's obviously better versions of all those routes, right?
Yes.
Like there's a better
There's
way to get a dog.
ideal sort of best practice for
Best practice.
whoever you choose to get a dog and welcome them into your lives. As long as you're responsible, then I'm not going to be judgmental about other people's lives. I
Correct.
certainly have things I recommend, but everyone's different.
I loved I related, and I loved that. I loved that so much, and I loved that you made it like even a part of your book, and I love that that's your approach. That's sort of been mine here too on the podcast when I've interviewed people that are like, "Oh, we got our dog from this breeder, but it was a good breeder, and I know we shouldn't have
I
done
know
that."
people
But it's like,
are,
hold on. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
defensive and
There's a whole thing around it,
yeah,
but I appreciate it, but also the lengths you have gone to research all of these different areas of from rescue to breeders to and bringing that education into the book too, which I was like, it's more just a comment of like thank you for doing that, because
yeah,
I it was important, and actually I learned a lot too.
yeah.
And yeah, and anyway, so okay, so now you launch Instagram,
Hmm.
and did you launch as the dog? Okay, wait, I gotta go back.
Yeah.
So So hold on. So this is now you were laid off, you said?
Yes, I
Okay.
was let go with like 40
There we
people.
go.
I mean, I was I knew it was possible. I was, you know, sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. As I wrote about, remember, I
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
like got in trouble at work. You know, I was just sort of skating by.
Right. Yeah.
I
But
was
still,
surviving.
okay, so people want to see pictures of dogs, and that brings joy to people, and but you're like this like incredible photographer.
Well, not
What
initially.
No, I know. But like so you go about I mean, I know, and this is what like people will read the book, but I'm also like I want to bring this
Oh,
to the pod too.
of
Your
course.
stories to the
Tell
pod.
them.
Like,
Yes.
but also, yeah. So how did you fall into like, oh, these are photos of dogs, but these are going like these. I'm going to take insanely beautiful photos of dogs, and in the process have these conversations and share their stories. Like
Yeah.
it got so much deeper than yeah.
Um, well, so I grew up like with a dark room in the house, and my dad was a hobby photographer, and so I was always into photography and gadgets, and having a camera gave me a sense of purpose of like, here's what I'm doing. I'm like taking pictures.
Yeah.
Um, and but I was never like an amazing photographer. Like I was fine. I was better than the average person, but I wasn't like trained. I didn't go to school for it. Um, and then, but I just felt this sort of like epiphany around like what was happening with Humans of New York and really the
Mm-hmm.
Sartorialist,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
is sort of the Dogist was a spoof or a spin-off of that,
Mm-hmm.
where everyone like the Sartorialist was so serious
Yeah.
about fashion. And it's like the definition of, you know, it's beautiful. Like I love fashion too, but it's like the definition of like vanity in a way. Like here's me, here's this like beautiful person on the street and they want to be seen and it's this moment in time and that was great. But we sort of anthropomorphize our dogs too, right? Like what if they're people? And of course they're not, but what if we played with that sort of
Oh.
juxtaposition of like, well, the dogs want to have their pictures too, so and they want to be portrayed in a dramatic um and so it was just like instantly like you didn't even have to see a caption or anything. You just see it's like this dog like posing and that was what I was good at, and that's sort of my signature still today is eye contact with the dog because lots of dog pictures are, you know, it's hard to communicate through podcasting, but like imagine if I was like looking at your forehead or something, you'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing? But it's
Mm-hmm.
only like that's almost like slightly off.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
most dog pictures are like slightly off, right? It's like not the dog isn't, you can tell the dog isn't looking to your soul. And I was like, I'm gonna take pictures that do make it seem like that, where they are, it makes it feel like they know that they want to be seen. Like they know it's a camera.
Right.
So
Right.
that
Right.
that was sort of that's the thing that's like they want people want to have that moment with their dog where it's like here's a beautiful picture of your dog and the dog is posing for the camera and and I'm doing it for free basically, right? I'm walking around and I'm sort of, you know, it's like when you're saying earlier like you're I don't know if you said starstruck, but like that's part of the character is that I'm like this like Batman who just appears out of nowhere and I'm just a guy, you know.
But you're just a guy. Keep going. Okay.
I'm saying like
But I know.
that's part of the joke is that like here's this guy who's like taking himself so seriously and he's like this um you know elusive, you know, man who just appears and makes your dog famous. um and that is part of the joke, right? It's like because the joke's on me because I'm trying so hard
Right.
and the dogs like quote ruin it every time. Like I'm trying to get to the bottom of like tell me your story and it's like, well, he ate $100 bill and pooped it out intact. He destroyed our comforter and there's pillows, there's feathers everywhere. Like I'm like, okay, like that's the story then, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so that's just sort of like my sense of humor. It's like very dry, um very just sort of like matter of fact and
Yeah.
that's
That
like
it
that's what
comes
dogs
from
are.
they are.
But
And
that's
also
what we are too. We just hide the parts.
We do. We do. We absolutely do. You're the talking because I feel like when we do make eye contact with our dog, anytime I'm looking, like when Linus is looking in my eyes, I do feel like he is looking into my soul.
Right.
To capture that in a photo is incredible. But you do that.
It feels different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when we take pictures of people, you know, if you're getting your picture taken, you smile.
Yeah.
You seem happy, even if you're not feeling so hot, or maybe you are.
Yeah.
And you're looking at the camera because where else are you going to look? Because that's just sort of like
It's
eyes
funny.
communicate so much.
Yeah.
And you know, that's one of the reasons we love dogs so much is because they're so generous with eye contact. You know,
Yeah.
they'll just stare at you, especially if you have good food. And you get this huge oxytocin hit when you make eye contact, and that you feel so present and someone's acknowledging my existence, and I'm loved.
Mm.
And you know,
Mm.
count the number of seconds you make direct eye contact with people in your life. Like certainly, like, you know, my wife and I talk and have great moments every day, but I have more probably directness with Elsa if you had a stopwatch, you know.
Yeah. It's also this thing that I ask people about just because I am no expert, but I also know what I feel. And there is a there is something about, so when I, you know, it's the similar thing of like, in my experience, even just like with acting or whatever, like I'm on a set and I'm meeting somebody for the first time. We could talk about a lot of things, but the second I say, tell me about your pet,
Mm-hmm.
or do you have a dog? It's different.
Yeah.
People shift. It's
Yes.
because of the relationship with them. We shift into something else. And the something else is the thing that I like to talk about on here, because I'm like, how they open us up in some way that in the human dynamic. I actually just like saw this thing that I was like, I gotta read about this. Have you heard about this? The like that they actually do unlock a part of our brains that like a human cannot. Like they're studying this thing that like taps into a part of our brain, which is why when they pass, the grief is so intense. And oftentimes, you know, I mean, people will say like, oh, I lost my uncle earlier this year, and I didn't didn't grieve even a fraction
You didn't
of
know what to do
for this like this dog. It's so that the human our bodies and our brains and our cell, like we have a bond that is almost greater maybe than that we have with our humans.
Well,
so go on.
Well, I think our relationship with our dogs is so pure,
Yeah.
and our relationship with people is so complex.
Right.
And so when people pass, it's like there's a lot going on. You know, it's not like they're this pure.
Yeah.
And whereas a dog, it's like all they did was love you, and they're such a source of comfort, and they never judged you.
Yeah.
And so
it's unconditional love.
Yes, the unconditional love. And so when they leave, you feel a part of your heart has been taken away.
It has.
And it has.
Yeah. And then I always make the joke, and then we go right back in. And we go right back in.
Right.
I gotta get another eventually. But like, yeah, I mean, God, I feel like this is fascinating because I love that without asking you're like already like you're so tapped into like so many things. You're so smart, Elias.
I don't know about that.
Oh my God, from like understanding people and understanding dogs, and that is what you've created. You know, and even the word, the title, the Dogist, like that is you.
Yeah.
This is not like a title people get. This is you are the Dogist, and you are the Dogist.
I know.
You are Batman.
I know. Well, thank you. I love Batman.
But it's true.
Yeah. People when you talk about their dogs, like you're saying, like there's this tension that is removed as soon as you bring up the conversation of their dog. Yeah. Because I think it's like they're happy that finally they don't have to talk about them. Like the pressure is off themselves. Mm-hmm. Like we're all like very clammed up when we have to. Everything's about us. Like, what's my job? How much money am I making? Like,
My relationship, my
What's
this,
the
that, yeah.
status, all these things.
Right.
And so we can like have this third party that doesn't care at all about what we think of them, and we can just we can deflect the attention into something that's not worried.
Mm.
And that is such a relief and is liberating.
Hmm.
Like, no one wants to, if I were to stop someone on the street and ask about, tell me about you and your greatest life's accomplishments and your
Hmm.
failures.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, like what filters am I going to put up? Like, what's this thing that will sound good? Like, very few
Totally.
people, very few people would actually like answer that sincerely or candidly. But if I ask about, and no one would answer that about their kid either. But
They wouldn't answer it authentically.
yes,
They'd be
and
trying to calculate what would
yeah,
be. Yeah, go on. Yeah,
exactly.
right,
But
right.
with a dog, and which
Yeah.
is the thing that I sort of learned very quickly, is like when I ask about their dog, they're just like, okay, what's the most embarrassing story I could possibly tell about them, and just say it right now. And
Totally.
it's so like liberating and like fun to just like tell a story without leaving out any like details, and just like laugh about something
Yeah.
and know that the dog isn't going to be like embarrassed. Like, don't tell that story. That's embarrassing. Like, um,
So every dog is Elsa's voice.
basically,
Yeah, I love it. Don't tell that story.
don't tell mom. You always tell this story. I mean, it's sort of like a way a kid would talk,
Oh my
I
god.
think.
Oh my god. Yeah, it is. It is the way a kid would talk. Yeah, totally. That is the way a kid would talk.
Yeah.
You're nailing that part. Uh,
Yeah.
but going into like, okay, because I want to get to like the dog is becoming the dog to you, like all of the research you've done, all of the advocacy you've been doing, all of the to writing this book. But I also, so I don't keep you for 6 hours. I
No
also
worries.
want to ask you about how Elsa came into your life, how she's changed your life, because
Yeah.
that dog will change your life.
Yes. It's dedicated to her. The book is
Yes.
dedicated to Alice.
And so what order should we go? Because I know I like out of like as creators and people, like you're doing what you love, but you've also found like such a core, such a like niche, perfect thing around dogs, humans, a couple of questions, beautiful stories, and like it's such a like, what are we here for if we're not like doing that?
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm like, I have like such respect and admiration just as a creator, and also as like understanding and trying to bring something like good and meaningful to the planet. And also with dogs, I mean, you keep talking and I'm listening, and I'm like, they really are like this unifier that like we all somehow get on the same page, which is so rare in any
Hmm.
capacity when it comes to this topic,
Yeah.
like it's a really cool thing. And like you don't anyway, so I could go on and on. I'm have such like admiration and like respect for how you've done what you do, and the care in which you've like given to the work. But okay, so you've now launched Instagram, you're now rocking and rolling, you're now taking pictures. I mean, is this boring for you
No,
to
no,
telling this
no.
story? Okay, because like at what point were you like, holy shit, like I'm doing like this is my full time. This is what I'm doing. This is what I do now.
Yeah.
I
I
am the
think,
dogist.
you know, I was doing it for, honestly, it got traction pretty quickly. Like
Yes.
it was like
You have
it was
to.
for fortunate sort of timing, I guess. Like if I'd started today, I would probably have more trouble sort of getting it off the ground. But like Huffington Post picked it up like within a month or two, and then it snowballed from there. And I had 1 million followers after a year, and I got a
Jeez.
book deal, and
Yeah.
then it was just sort of obvious that this was my calling, so to say.
Hmm.
And why would I stop doing it? And it's not as predictable as having a 9 to 5, right?
I mean,
But
God.
it's certainly like more fulfilling
More
and
meaningful, more purposeful. Yeah.
more purposeful. I felt like I was doing something that we needed, this sort of universal love that you're talking about, that it's the one thing that we live in such a divisive time right now. Everything is touchy, um, and shocking and depressing and makes you jealous. And
Mm-hmm.
so here is something that is something we can all agree on
Mm-hmm.
and is like an antidote to all that stuff that I can do and publish daily.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, even if it was like once a week, it'd be like too little too late. It needs to be like this daily fix of like, okay, well, just like a dog is that way.
Mm.
Like, of all the things that are going throughout my day, at least I can go check in and meet a dog on the Dogist and like hear someone talk about in a positive way about something. And it may not be hilarious. Maybe it's a sad story, but it's like touching and real and um, restorative
Mm.
instead of uh, you know sapping your energy.
Yeah.
So I just got addicted to that, and I think it's a good addiction.
It's a great addiction.
I feel like I work hard um, when I'm not shooting. Right, that's like the work part. Right, I have to read all the emails, and this is fun. Right, I get to talk about something I love, but there's running a business is difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the work part of it. But when I get to
Right.
put on the suit, and put my camera on and go out, and I'm in like Dogist mode, like that is when I feel most sort of uh empowered and like having the most fun. Like I'm uh
Like where you're
in
at
my
your
element.
authentic. Yeah, you're in
Yeah.
your element. I love that. Were you putting on your suit? It's so cool. I
Thank
didn't
you.
get like Batman, but you kind of are like, well, you come to the rescue. You're literally, putting that hit of whatever that addiction we all have to, those cute faces and your conversations on the streets with people. Like you're providing a
Yeah. Well,
super heroic service. Yes.
I'm channeling dog, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And dogs are lifesavers. Dogs have a real effect on us. So I think my art or my content sort of is in the same vein of like not everyone can have a dog,
Yeah.
and so dogs, watching other dogs vicariously sort of gives you something like that.
Yeah.
And so I hear, I'm walking around and a lot of people will stop me and sort of offer similar praise, like what you do is so uh I love it so much and it's such a joyful thing. Thank you so much. And I appreciate all that. And um I know that it has a real effect, just the way that dogs have real effect, but it's hard to like quantify, right? Like um
Mm-hmm.
I'm you know Batman has his own problems too. It's like
Of course. He's also a
he's got
man.
his own life.
Yeah, but
So
he is a superhero, but
yeah,
he's a
right.
human.
He's a flawed individual.
He's a flawed individual.
All I'm saying is that um, I'm glad that I have this, I strive to be a light in the world, and
Mhm.
that is my mission, is to um, document dogs and to bring some joy to people's lives. And everyone there's all types of things going on in the world, and I'm just trying to help out.
You're doing that, and we all are grateful for it, honestly. Um, wow. Okay, so we'll get to the book in a minute. Let's talk about Elsa for a little bit, and then we can talk about how Elsa kind of inspired and why this book is dedicated to her. But how did Elsa come into your life?
Yeah. So she's a pandemic dog, pandemic pup. Um, I left New York once,
Hmm.
it all started happening, and went to my parents have a place in Cape Cod. So, there was like no one there at the time because it was so cold. Um, and so I was with my buddy, and I sort of lost access to dogs,
Mm.
and I was like, all right, well, I need a dog. I need to like do something. Like I need to continue the show must go on, or
Mm-hmm.
like I just want to be around a dog. And so this is a perfect opportunity to foster. Great. Like that's a great service, helping alleviate the shelter system. And reached out to some local shelters, and one of them responded saying, okay, great. Like, how about Elsa? I said, okay, sure. And so they sent me like one picture of, a skinny white husky that was coming up from Texas. And then she shows up, right? And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, like, from the second they show up, they're like instantly shift everything in your life. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I went from being this sort of single person without any like tether to anything, just sort of like free
Mm-hmm.
rolling person, um, to being like, okay, like I could see myself loving this other being, and like she is amazing, and um, that's what happens when you fall in love with something, right?
Did you have before Elsa? Where did you have a dog? You did.
I grew up with Labradors.
As an adult, though,
No,
so your
no,
Elsa's your
it
first,
was
right? Adult dog.
yes,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was
yeah,
sort of like my secret as the Dogist, that I was dogless. You
yeah.
know, I was. It was just sort of like I wasn't ready to have a dog. I was focused on traveling and
Mm,
being nimble, and I didn't feel it was responsible to have a dog. But
mhm.
um,
Good.
I was 32 or 30, yeah, or so, and so it was ready.
Yeah.
And
It's, yeah.
and she showed up and started campaigning, and she won my heart. The dogs have a way of crawling into your heart, and you don't want them to leave, and they won't if if you let them stay. So I
Mm,
it was serendipitous. If you'd asked me prior to that what type of dog I would have when I grew up, I don't know what I would have said. Maybe, because I grew up with labs, I would say something like that, or but
mhm.
but um it was meant to be.
So
And
you just knew. You were like, this is we are a
well,
duo.
yeah, I mean, she's actually, a fantastic dog. Like
Mm.
beyond the obvious aesthetics, that she's like this gorgeous animal, like this
She is
uh
stunning. She
she's like
really
the right
is.
size, and she's
Yeah.
like this blue-eyed, like
Yeah.
white um dog. She's incredibly well mannered,
Yeah.
non-destructive, non-vocal. She did try and run away once, but I caught, that was our sort of trauma
Elsa.
bonding moment.
Elsa. Yeah.
Elsa, and that's how she gets her Instagram account, chasing Elsa, because I had to chase her
Mhm.
down the street. Um, but um,
Wait, is Elsa? What is the name? What is the?
her Instagram account is called Chasing Elsa.
But why did you name her Elsa? What's the
Oh,
origin of the? Yeah, is that?
of Elsa.
Uh-huh.
Well, she came with that name,
Yeah.
and a little girl. So there's a whole backstory of she's named after the Frozen character, the
Yeah.
Disney Frozen character. Um, and we actually, Sam, my wife, and I did a cross country road trip a number of years ago, and on the way back, we actually stopped in not Alice, in Port Isabel, Texas,
Hmm.
where Elsa was originally, like her paperwork from the shelter was from, like the shelter there. And so we actually met the people that originally fostered her, and the girl who had grown up significantly since then, and like just sort of connected the dots. And I've actually never shared that stuff. I probably will at some point, like that footage.
Oh my God, you must.
I
Oh,
know.
yes, we would love. I mean, do you love that I speak for the masses of fans that like I'm just like we would love it.
Yeah, no,
We need to see that. Like
I,
I'm like, tell me more.
yes, it does need,
Wow.
I will, when I feel sort of like
Moved.
the creative inspiration for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe this is it.
Okay, so on this road trip you go, you have documented all of this,
Yes.
obviously,
I
but
mean,
you've
it's
shared it with us. Um, so you must share it now. So yes, okay. So you go and you meet the foster family. How many years later was this?
it must have been not so, like 2 or 3 years, I think.
Oh,
And
oh,
just sort of like meeting the people. But I think, at the same time, Elsa was a little bit like startled. She was like, in our minds, we thought she was thinking, oh, I'm going back from whence I came. Like, no, no, no. Like she was uncomfortable. Maybe
oh,
she remembered her, these people, I'm sure, were very nice to her, but she probably was
that
like,
might
oh, they're
be true.
taking me back or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had already, that's just what we were imagining she was thinking. But
You're like, no, 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 no.
yeah,
This is
this is just
your
a,
origin
a,
story.
a
Mhm.
visit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, wow.
Um,
So the daughter had grown up,
yeah.
and the daughter,
And
yeah.
yeah, I mean, but this was like in the very southernmost point of Texas, so it's very different from New York,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's there's lots of like Texas is a huge point of overpopulation of dogs,
Yeah.
and I think Elsa may have been um, sort of on the trend of like Game of Thrones direwolf breeding, like people who want like
Mhm.
a dire wolf. So maybe who knows? I'm just imagining, but I think maybe that's plausible that she was sort of bred by someone who was trying to
Trying to
do that.
that. Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense. The timing of it makes sense too.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Wow.
Um,
So did the daughter named Elsa originally?
yeah. Well, actually, her shelter name was Bolt, which is another Disney character, a white like husky dog.
Oh my God, that's so cute.
Yes, but Elsa's better name.
Oh no,
So she
Elsa's
was renamed.
Linus might come over
But
and
I do joke. It's like if sometimes I'll be like, "That's Bolt." Hey, come on, Bolt.
look who came over. Look who knows I'm
Oh, who was
this is
that?
this is Linus.
Linus.
Yeah, this is Linus.
Linus, he's just hanging out.
He's just digging out. He's the best
Yeah,
boy.
that's my mom. She's got a sweatshirt of me. It's custom.
I wore it today.
Mom, why aren't you wearing your sweatshirt? You always wear it.
He's like, what is happening? Oh my God.
Yeah, very
Oh my
cute.
God. Okay, so you got to share that footage. You got to
I
we got
know it's in the cans. I gotta bring it back. I gotta
um
publish it.
all right, so that's how Elsa got her name. And then Elsa has now so Elsa comes in and opens your heart. She like cracks you open and you're like
Yes.
and now you're like a different person.
Yeah. I feel like the dogs catalyze sort of the next phase of yourself. And
Whoa,
so,
that's a good way to put it.
right, they like sort of like start the next chapter. And so
Yeah.
I became, a dog father, and it sort of put things into context, and as did the pandemic. These sort of hard times end up like making you realize things about who you care about, what you want in your life.
Hmm.
Um, one of the stats I think about is, after 9/11 happened in New York, the population of dogs doubled
Mm.
because, and I'm not sure if I can curse on your podcast, but
Yeah, you can.
I can.
We keep it real.
I think the thought people had, and people have when these types of things happen, is like, fuck it, I'm getting a dog. Like, what am I
Totally.
waiting for? Like, let's not, like, all these things I'm striving for and the career, and let's just be happy now. Let's do this shit now.
Yeah.
So that's when people get a dog and they're like not delaying sort of joy.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that was part of, during the pandemic that happened as well. So many people
Yeah.
adopted dogs because they're like, well, what if we all just like die in the next year? Will I
Well, I
get,
mean, it does put things in perspective. It really does. Because you do have that thought of like, what am I? This could all end tomorrow. This
yeah,
could all like, so what are we doing? And
yeah,
why are we here? And why aren't we living that version of this life
yes.
when it could? Yeah. That's so I did not know that about the 9/11 part, but it makes so much sense because
Hmm.
you remove the overthinking. There's no time for that. You're
Right.
like, well, should I? Do we have to? Well, what about this or what about that? And suddenly you're
Right.
just,
You're snoozing everything.
yeah,
And
totally.
then, you just want to like enjoy it now instead of delaying the gratification till some
Right.
random time in the future. So that was probably one aspect of it. But I started talking to Sam more. Things came into focus. Like, who do I want to spend time on
Mm-hmm.
this earth with?
Well, you met Sam after Elsa, right?
Well, Sam and I have known each other since high school. Really, we didn't start
Right.
dating until we were in our 20s, but we sort of like dated here and there, and it was um, we had a thing going, but and we loved each other, but we never said it. And so um, this was sort of like the moment of truth where it's like,
Mm.
okay, like I've and Elsa helped sort of like you said open up my heart, and I think dogs do activate a chamber of your heart that is is not active before.
I
Um,
agree.
so she as soon as Elsa came into my life, I was also sort of like, all right, who's going to be Elsa's dog mom? Because she need a mom.
The
And
voice.
I know I can't help it. And and
And you were like, Sam.
and
Oh,
well, it just occurred to me like who would be great, and Sam had that energy that I was looking for. She understood my humor and
mm.
played into it, and is very responsible and good person she has good dog energy. And so the rest is kind of history. It's just sort of that's
You
the
should coin that. You should do like a hashtag. What is it? Good dog energy. You should do
yes.
GDE. What a
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
the BD energy. Yeah, yeah. We have
That's
all that.
good.
Yeah. So anyway, there. You should see.
Yeah.
I'm like, but it's true. I know exactly what you mean by good dog energy. People know what that means.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know it when you see it, right?
Yeah.
And some
Yeah.
people are a little standoffish, or they you
Yeah.
don't maybe it's you don't even like their dog voice, or you think I don't know, you just don't dog the same way. I don't always dog the same way as other people. Some people are a little. It's like it's too um like dog in a bag, and like and
Hmm.
it's not it's like a little too goofy to me, or posh or something. I don't know.
Like the dog in the bag, meaning like when people put their dogs in bags.
No, I mean like I'm sort of describing a um like the person with a Yorkie who's pushing around a stroller, and
Oh,
like
got it.
the dog is sort of like living this, like, doesn't have to walk ever, even if they
Yeah.
can, just sort
Yeah.
of
I get
wearing
it.
like the gold hardware, and like the dog is more like an accessory to their life,
I get it.
and
I
they eat like steak every day. There's nothing. I don't really intend to judge. I just saying that's not exactly my dog energy.
look. Same. I have a hard time. Can I tell you? I have a hard time. One of my lights went out. Hang on. Why did my light go out? I have a hard time. I have a hard time like making him do anything he doesn't want to do. Like if it's like people be like, you should do this trend or you should do this whatever, and I'm like, bro, do you want to do that trend? Like, I don't
Yeah,
think you want to do that trend. That's for me. I don't know.
yeah,
I always get a little weird about it, like making him do anything that like he doesn't want to do. But also like I love when I see somebody in there, as you were saying, like the accessory kind of version. It's very funny. But that's not our deal.
yeah. And it
That's
does.
not how I dog.
Everyone has their own way of
Dogging.
dogging.
Yes, I
So
love it. Okay, wait. Okay, so Elsa comes out. So you kind of answered the question. One of the questions I always ask is how has your dog either made you a better person or changed your life, which you've kind of already said because you said Elsa opened your heart.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, it's not like we consciously are aware of these things. Like, oh, I need to be a better person. I need to like get outside more. I need to like the dogs just do that
yeah,
automatically.
yeah,
Like it's hard to will yourself into it if there's no one counting on you. So Elsa has made me more patient. She's gotten me off my phone. She
mm,
um, is a source of joy because she looks at me and makes me laugh all the time, and has introduced me to all types of people when I'm walking with her. Any dog owner can attest to the social influence they have
yeah,
in
yeah,
general. Like if you're by yourself, if I'm walking on the street, no one wants to talk to me. I mean, maybe, but if I have a dog, everyone does.
Yeah. You
So
have
it's
conversations.
very real.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's true. I always say he gets me out of bed. He will literally swap my phone out of my hand if I'm
Yeah.
on too long. He'll just be like, what is this? What is
Yeah.
this?
Why
Like,
is it why is it taking so much of your attention? What
I'm
about
like,
me though? That's what else
Linus,
it does.
Linus, I'm looking at the Dogist. I'm looking at
Yeah.
my favorite site.
I don't care who you're looking at. Look at me.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
what it's see.
Yeah.
Um, so when you got to this book, when you were like, I'm all right, it's now. I mean, you had a TED talk this year. Like you're like, I also want to ask you like, what's next for you? Because like you're like, this is a new. You're not just Batman. Like you are. I mean, you are Batman, but it's like this like. Or sorry, the Dogist, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. This character.
This character, but not, but it's so far beyond. Like you are so smart. Like this book is it. You have a perspective and a overview of so many different areas around the world of dogging
Mm.
that I don't think people have, and I don't know from the Dogist alone that even know about you at this point. They're learning. We're learning
Yeah.
this. Like, oh, Batman's like also like he really is. He's
Yeah.
really out here like in the rescue world. He's actually educating people on this, that, or the other. So you get to you've got a book deal, and where are you like, this is what my voice, this is what I want
Yeah.
this to be about. Yeah.
I mean, I hope people really enjoy my book
Oh,
and helps
I got
them
some marked a page that I was
it,
like, oh God,
it
yes.
helps them appreciate their dogs more and understand their dogs more.
Yeah.
So I hope that's like a positive influence. And
Was the mission kind of course it is the positive influence, but it's also like, as you set out to write this, did you have like, this is how I like, this is where I want this to land? Or was it more, did you kind of, because this also was like probably pretty cathartic for you as well, and a lot of
yeah,
emotional,
well,
like yeah.
I think I've been dogisting for 11 years, and so I think at some point I'm like, okay, like I have some unique base of information now. Like I'm an expert in some way
Yeah.
on whatever it is, and so I should try and distill my experience and my thoughts into a book.
Yeah.
And um, I had a co-writer help me sort of create the scaffolding for it
Hmm.
because I've never written a book before, um, and it's I can't imagine doing it all. Obviously, some people are authors, like that's all they do, and um, they can just like sit down and figure it all out. And maybe I will be able to do that at some point, but basically we broke the book down into three categories, which are your identity,
Hmm.
your purpose, and relationships, and how dogs change each of those things and affect those things. So once we sort of came up with that structure, then all the stories and my experiences, and my voice,
Hmm.
um, I applied all those things, and then with Ben, my co-writer, helped structure it and make it make sense, and um, make the book what it is,
Hmm.
and have a whole beginning, middle, and end. And so uh, I think it'll be the first of many books that are narrative based. I have my photo sort of coffee table books, which are
Yeah.
awesome in their own way. But this is sort of there's no shortage of incredible, inspiring dog stories and things
Yeah.
we can learn from them. So I think, and I think that copy that you have is like a galley copy, right?
Is yeah.
So I just got the official copy,
Oh,
and actually,
yeah.
well, let me show you.
Okay.
So the official hardback copy
Yeah.
has
Yeah. I got this one.
this little Easter egg in it, which is the hardback, and it says this dog has changed my life.
Mm,
And it's a list of for you to write in the dogs that have changed your life.
I love that.
So that's
Good.
part of my my plan is to have people write in all the dogs that they've had over their lifetime and who've changed their
Oh,
life.
that becomes like it almost becomes like a, you know, it
Like
goes from
a
being just
tribute.
a book, but yeah, to like a tribute
Yeah,
to
and a
keep forever.
yearbook in a way. Like,
Yes.
while I'm on tour and I'll
Oh,
be in Austin on June 7th with you in
yes.
discussion
We're gonna
at
have so much
Emos.
fun at Emos. Yeah.
Excited for that.
Yes.
But I'm gonna bring a copy of the book, and I'm not sure if we're gonna get some like bigger copy. We'll see. But I
Mhm.
want everyone who comes to write in it like a yearbook of their dog's name and all the dogs who've changed their life, so that we have this
I'm
sort
gonna
of
cry.
tribute to our dogs.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I love that that is a part of the book that you've added
Yes.
like to that
Yeah.
it's really good. Um, okay. I don't think I've missed anything on my question side, but I also, and I don't want to keep you too long. But I noticed like during the fires out here in LA and
Yes.
like through a lot of you're like you were like at Pasadena Humane, like you are in like
Mhm.
that world. At what point were you like, as you were learning about dogs, you were like, oh, I'm going to go. I mean, I know you talk about even like going to shelters and meeting, the woman you said has a scary name, but it's not Whitney. Is it Fang?
Whitney Fang. Yeah.
And I was like, but like, when did that click in for you as like another part of it? And we can talk about this or not. It's like totally
No,
up to
happy
you.
to.
But I love that this is now a part of your life as well, that you're like, oh, I've learned and I'm curious. And now you've gone into that world, learned about that world. And now you're also sharing that with us, which I feel like is like huge. You're like using
Mhm.
your Batman. I'm sorry I keep referring to you as Batman instead of
No, I take it as a
I
compliment.
I love this. So what inspired you? When were you like, oh, this is part of my work now too?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate that most of my job is like a walk in the park, literally. Like I get to
Mhm,
enjoy dogs in their best living their best lives. But a
mhm,
lot of those dogs came from the shelter, right?
mhm.
And so I felt like I had a responsibility to help dogs out of the shelter so that I can meet them on the street and see
Yeah.
them in there with a loving family and smelling trees and stuff instead of stuck in a kennel. Because dogs like us are social animals, and we didn't create. Dogs are largely like a human. We made them.
Yeah.
We created. We Dogs don't exist on their own. The golden retrievers are
Correct.
not a naturally occurring thing.
Right.
So
Right.
we have a responsibility to care for them and
Yeah.
to not have them languish
Yeah.
in a shelter, like, and literally going crazy in a shelter. It's like
Yeah.
prison.
Yeah.
So it's not a very glamorous part of my job, right? Going into a shelter that's loud and smells and is depressing because you make eye contact with all these dogs that want to be out of there. And I inevitably become a bit desensitized to it because that's my only choice. And people who work in shelters, like, they're doing their very best, but they
Mhm.
also kind of have to like turn something off because otherwise it's hard to handle it all.
Right.
But it's just sort of something I do routinely, is to help dogs find their homes,
Mhm.
because not everyone has the ability or the awareness of shelters, and that these incredible dogs are available and just waiting.
I love that. It's one of the you talk about there was this thing in the book that I was like, fuck, I have not thought about it like what a beautiful truth to yes, obviously we love puppies, like we love puppies. Puppies are
Hmm.
awesome and they're so cute. But when and it's also really, that's just as profound and bonding and beautiful to like grow through that whole life with
Hmm.
you and that dog. But when you get a dog from a shelter or say a little older dog, that there's like a story before
Hmm.
you kind of go into this like co-creation mode that like I'm not explaining it the way you do in this book, but I
No,
was like,
it's
oh my
nuanced.
God, like what a what an interesting take on that too is like, oh, we're entering into this dog's life at this dog's already had a couple of owners,
Chapters written.
chapters
Yeah.
written. Yeah, totally. And it
Yeah.
creates a very different story than that of the puppy. Not any greater, lesser, nothing. It's
Yeah.
just
Just
what a
different.
beautiful way to put it though. That was one of the things I had
Yeah.
earmarked in this. I was like, yes.
Yes. The story of Lunchbox, right?
Lunchbox. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What a great
And then
name too.
that's, oh my God, it was such a good name. And his muzzle and that was one of the first virals, right? Or like crazy
It
viral.
was a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember. I know Lunchbox. But yeah, that was what it was. When you bring an adult dog into your life, it changes the story, or rather, it changes the fact that it is just your story. More specifically, you're entering a story that is already in progress. When you pick up, like, come on, man. That's it's so beautiful and it's so true. And it also, I think, you know, what a way when you're going to a shelter, you're considering getting a dog to think about it. You know, that's a way to think about it. That
Yeah.
it's like, different and it's
Well,
beautiful. Yeah.
I think, as people, we always see things in the context of ourselves. So I
Yeah.
understand that people are like, "Oh, I want a puppy because it's really cute. I'll think it's cute, and I'll get to sort of um, decide everything and raise it the way I want to." And that's great.
Mm.
And so when you um, go to a shelter and you adopt a dog that maybe did have some abuse or has question marks, people
Hmm.
don't necessarily like question marks because
Mm.
unpredictable. So
Sure.
I think um, when you adopt a dog that is sort of has some chapters already written, you mature in a way that you weren't expecting, and you accept a challenge. And it may not really be a challenge. There's not every there's a myth that dogs from a shelter are like damaged goods or something.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm. Broken. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just not really true. Like some dogs have a lot of behavioral challenges, but I would say most dogs from shelters are just like there because some sort of series of events has led them to being unwanted for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's just sort of a noble thing to save a dog's life from potentially being euthanized, from having to spend more time like literally going crazy and like not having a real life, and being accepting someone for their flaws. Maybe they are scared of doors or bags for some reason, and you have to, or you there's just something you have to work through, and
Yeah.
so that will just sort of make you a better, stronger person, and the bond you'll have with their dog is sort of
Yeah.
special.
And you'll learn a lot about yourself in the process, too. Have you had, I mean, my God, you've met so many, how many dogs? You said you have met over 50,000 dogs. Did you
Yeah,
say?
I mean, I've been saying 50,000 for a couple years. I guess I think so. It's all a blur.
So how would I possibly ask you to say, like, have you had, one that story like, was there one that just stood out? I mean, you tell stories obviously of many in this book, but that you just emotionally wanted to share on the pod, but you don't have to. If there was one you were like, this one really stuck with me for whatever reason. We know Lunchbox. What I love about Lunchbox's story is that yes, this was viral, but it was viral for like all your stuff is like for all the right reasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not
Well,
viral because it was mean or
or a
weird.
prank. Yeah.
Yeah, or we like dressed Lunchbox up in something to get clicks for something. Like it's such a, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's for the right reasons. And so I was like, yeah, of course Lunchbox deserved to go viral. Lunchbox is the shit. But like, so if you had one that you were like, oh my God, what if like I still think about this story or this dog.
Um,
You're like, yes, all of them.
yeah, I mean, there's so many over the years. Um, I mean, the thing, um, story I recounted recently was actually not about a dog in itself, but this girl Zoe, who um, I was connected with through the Make a Wish Foundation because she has like an inoperable tumor, um,
Hmm.
and for her wish, she wanted to photograph dogs, and I thought that was such a um, thoughtful and like soulful wish.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like meeting celebrity or like going to Disney World or something, like she wanted to hang out with dogs. Like she knew what she wanted to do, and I was honored that I was the person that Make a Wish thought of to help her grant the wish, and we had like an amazing day. Um, and it put things in perspective for me because I get to live her wish every day, right? Like I'm very lucky in what I get to do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it, in a way, made us all feel more lucky because we, we don't necessarily have like a shorter time frame that may seem like she has. Uh, and so we may take our time with our dogs and things we love for granted. Um, so I think it's still dogs who are helping us making me have this realization. Not just one dog. She has a dog, Diesel, but um,
Diesel.
yeah.
Wow,
Um,
that's beautiful.
and obviously, I've had incredible, like, I've met some incredible dogs, right? Like
Yeah.
search and rescue dogs are incredible. Like they literally find people in like disaster zones, and
Yeah.
it's not. It's like
Um, interviewed search and rescue, LA search and rescue, or
yes,
whoever. Yeah.
I've done
Or
some
yeah.
series with them,
Yeah.
and it's not like this Hollywoodized story. If you ask them like, have they ever like saved someone at the last second and ran into a burning building, and like that's not what these dogs do. Like sure that happens, right? Like um they
Yeah.
they may save. That's like that's the exception is that they're lucky enough to find someone who's still alive.
Alive. Right.
But
Exactly.
most of what these dogs do is restore families of people that are gone, that passed, and find help um
You're good.
help families like find closure
Yeah.
by finding either someone who's in the woods and has been there for a week, or has drowned, or is in some natural disaster, like helping find a body essentially.
Hmm.
um, and so it's a little bit like gruesome, and the dogs don't really know exactly what they're doing, but what they're doing is so important.
It is.
um,
It is.
and so it's like just knowing that dogs do this kind of stuff, um, and detection dogs that help us stay safe at events, from explosives. Like these are all like uncomfortable things, like death and destruction, and like the dogs just fearlessly
Yeah.
help, and they don't ask any questions, and they are doing it because they love us, and
Hmm.
um,
It's
pretty
true.
cool.
I think about like the stories I've been hearing too about, obviously that's a part of these incredible beings. Like on the search and rescue thing, the woman I interviewed, Denise, do you know Denise at California or LA Search and Rescue? I think it is. It's not that far from here. I mean,
Hmm.
maybe, but stories she was telling me were absolutely mind blowing. And then the other side too, being like the therapy animals that are going into work, not only, I mean, on every front, comfort, kids stressed out going through
Yeah.
like signals at like college campuses, but also like kids who have been in horrible in mass, shootings, and
Yes.
that can only go to school now if their dog is with them,
Right.
or like whatever. And the dogs provide it. Like it is so far beyond like what these animals do, as you just said, for love of us. I mean, that's why we're here. That's why you and I are even having this conversation and
Hmm.
telling stories, is because we feel that's important. Because what they're capable, that the expanse of their love and their I don't even know their
Yeah.
skills, but like just what the lengths they will go to for that is something we cannot, like, I almost can't wrap my head around that. Like, what other thing can do that? What other thing could bring those kids comfort going into school? What other thing is going to have the bravery, but also the pride and the willingness to go in, as you just said, and find, sadly, bodies and people after horrific events to, as you said, put families back together to have closure. I mean, anyway, it's
No,
beyond
the answer is nothing. Nothing.
nothing. Right.
I mean, maybe, we love cats. I don't know if they would do that for us. And other animals aren't able to.
No,
Um,
it's very specific. It's very specific. Yeah.
Your parrot may love you, but I don't know. Yeah, birds are pretty capable of interesting things too. But you're right. It's just like nothing.
Yeah.
Dogs just. Could you imagine our world without dogs? It'd be so different.
It'd be cold. It would just be cold.
Yeah, it would be devoid of a lot of joy and meaning and purpose, and
Yep.
we would not be the better for it.
Yeah. I can't think of a better way to like leave or wrap this, because I also know you're probably like, I could talk to you forever. You have cracked. You have it, you're doing it.
I'm glad. Well, we're gonna talk more.
We'll talk more. I'll see you in Austin, and I'm thrilled. I'm so excited. Thank you so much, by the way, for having me there and letting me do. Like, I'm excited to interview and see you at work with the dogs and the people, and it's going to be so great. And thank you for doing this interview as well.
Of course.
I appreciate it and everything that you do, and you really are. You said Batman, and I'm like, okay.
A superhero is sort of like the thing that a canine superhero.
You are. You really are. You are so much more. And that's what I love. I love that we're getting to see you now. Like, obviously we know what you do, but like actually hearing from you and hearing from the superhero, like, I love seeing you more now. I think I
have fun doing it.
Yeah.
It's not the reason I set out to do it. It's like I wanted to focus on the dogs, but it does. It is fun, and it helps me sort of explore sort of who I am, and I think it makes the Dogist better. So
it does, and I love it. Thank you so much for listening to this very special episode of Unconditional with Elias Wise, or the Dogist, or Batman. I've heard it all ways. Please follow him. Please follow us. Get his book. And also, I will be, if you're in the Chicago area, I will be interviewing him on June 16th, live on stage. He's going to take pictures of doggies. There'll be doggies available for adoption. It's very special. Anyway, tell your friends, subscribe, like, leave a review, all the things. Thank you all so much for listening.